Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest Anfield Index Under Pressure podcast. My name's Dan Kennett, and with me for the final non-Liverpool match-related pod, thank God, before we get back to normality. It's going to be a question and answer session. We're going to be taking them all equally, but I do have a full house to help me out with this. First of all, I've got my our resident video analyst and data collection guru, Mr. Daniel Rhodes. Evening, Rhodesy.
Evening, mate. I've enjoyed the cricket. I've enjoyed the World Cup knockout games, and I didn't see
some cracking NFL matches yesterday as well.
I didn't see any of the Liverpool friendly either yesterday. So,
well, we're not. We good news is we don't have any questions about the Liverpool friendly.
Good.
And I have our dynamic sports science duo. First of all, he's had more Premier League clubs than Tiger Woods. It's Mr. Simon Brundish. Evening, Si.
Evening, boys. We got some footy coming back next week. I'm very excited.
Proper footy.
Actual footy.
Yeah. I heard that you're being a pussy and your training's been called off because of a little bit of sleet. Is that right?
Oh, God, shoot me.
You'd have been out there with your shorts, wouldn't you? Had your sleeveless vest.
Well, worse than that, we've got no heating or hot water, so it's like that in my kitchen.
Oh dear! Right, and you might have heard him chuckling there. He's broadcasting live from his ivory tower. It's Professor Phil Barter.
How are we doing, boys? How are we doing? I was going to say, so I saw a video of you earlier, but you had trousers on. I was very upset that you weren't wearing shorts outside.
Yeah, it is something that happened to me like 2 years ago. Up to that point, I'd never worn trousers in my life in any kind of training setting.
You were literally just born in shorts.
Yeah. Shorts in the snow.
And then, pulled up socks, yeah.
And then COVID hit, and forever, I just wear trousers now. I'm just too old to wear shorts.
Wow. Wow.
Too old or too bold, I'm not sure.
Right. Okay, so we got some Q&As. We've asked on the Twitter and we've asked on the Under Pressure Chat Discord from our subscribers, and we've got a pretty good cross-section, I think, some really good ones. Some interesting ones, which may not get answered, but we'll try. But first of all, actually, before we go in, I'm going to lead into the first. Now we've got you, Si, for this one. We can ask some proper questions. We had some bad breaking news over the weekend. Luis Diaz, he's going to be out for almost 3 months, apparently. What? This is a bit of a bombshell. What do we know?
We don't know an awful lot, to be fair. It's re-injuring of the same knee. Theoretically, it might be a slightly different mechanism than the other side, but like a compensatory thing. So if you basically consider having a seatbelt on and you have one either side of your knee, one got strained before, and while being repaired, the other one's just gone now. So it sucks a little bit, but I will have a fatigue index specifically on this with Marty later in the week.
Oh, excellent. That's what everybody wants to hear. Right. Okay. So it was plenty of Diaz insight on his injury and all that kind of good stuff with Marty.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Okay, then. Right. But that does lead us nicely into our first question, Si, which is actually from me on behalf of the Liverpool fan base, right? What is the role of a club doctor? And what is the impact of not having a club doctor? And will a club doctor make an iota of difference to our players getting injured? Because there was a lot of, you said you've never known so much fuss about a club doctor before. So what is the role of a club doctor?
Okay, can I answer this in reverse order?
Yes.
No, it won't make the slightest jot of difference to the injuries of our players, because he basically plays no role in planning or programming or training or planning of training loads or playing loads or anything. It's like, so he's not even head of performance or head of medical or anything. It's just a club doctor. It's basically a bureaucratic position, because you legally need a fully licensed doctor on hand to ask for certain scans and administer like procedures.
So is he like a GP for the entire club, effectively?
Exactly.
So even Doris the tea lady could go to him and ask for a prescription or something?
Not quite, because he won't even be full-time.
Right.
The procedural side of a medical, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So he'll still have his own clinic, and he will be hopefully, knowing this dude, like much more.
And you do know him,
specialist
actually,
filter. Pardon?
You do actually know him, don't you?
Yeah. So he'll be a specialist filter for any of our lads that do get injured, in finding the appropriate surgeon and consultant to administer surgery, and then he disseminates that information to the right departments to govern rehab. But he doesn't oversee rehab or anything. He just, speaks the right languages.
Yeah. So he connects people almost then, yeah. Okay. In theory then, going back to Diaz, if he'd been in place earlier, could he in theory have made different choices to how Diaz was operated on and initially and that kind of stuff to what happened?
He would have not made one iota difference to what happened. No.
Okay. And if there isn't a doctor, the players just go and see we have a locum, or a contractor or something in place, yeah, at Liverpool.
Well, there'll be at any one time there'll be 3 or 4 doctors knocking around.
Yeah, but just not officially on the payroll.
It's just an official label.
Yeah, it's like a permie instead of a locum.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right, nice and easy. All right then. Okay, on to actual questions, Si, right? And I'm going to go first of all to one from Velo. This is so different. Melo Dakovic, I'm going to say. Velo Dakovic. So apologies if I got that wrong, Velo. So, Si, is it possible to reach previous levels of intensity with the current squad after the World Cup break without any additions?
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
I suppose this is...
it's a $1 million question, this, isn't it?
Yeah. This might be the single most important factor of how our second half of the season looks. Yeah, ostensibly, yes. Because physiologically, there's no reason why all of the boys have a diminished capacity to run. Yeah. From one season to the next, from 7 weeks difference. Yeah. There's no reason why they suddenly can't sustain the intensity that they could on the last day of May at the beginning of August. There's no reason. I feel like they had maybe it was more psychological issues with driving intent and motivation rather than actual physiological. They couldn't provide enough energy to their muscles and then recover from the substrates of their energy production. I don't think it was that at all. It makes no sense to me. So maybe we can find some kind of external motivation which leads to some kind of intrinsic stuff that the boys will push on and recover and be the players they could before. But physically, I don't see there's a reason. There will undoubtedly be a physical decline August to August, in that Virgil's a year older.
Yeah.
Henderson's a year older. So there won't be like suddenly in 8 weeks' time, Virgil's 10% diminished. Yeah. What's going to happen over the course of last season? Because I think Virgil was spotty at best last season, erratic, and Henderson dropped off the cliff anyway. Is that they can muster a big physical performance once every, I don't know, 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. But that goes from once every 3 days at their physical peak, and then they need more recovery, and they just find it hard to push their absolute capacities anymore. That they might be 5% diminished, and then the next game they'll be 10% diminished because they haven't fully recovered. There's probably why Henderson could have such a big game for England last week, because he hadn't played for ages. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think with a couple of them it's impossible, but for players like Trent, absolutely they have full physical capacities they had before. Maybe they hadn't trained quite the same way, but they can delve into that to those whatever the physical abilities they had previously.
So, in one of the things that and Bart's will appreciate this, one of the theories I always refer to, in when we don't know the exact causes, is Occam's razor, and that's the most likely explanation is the one which is most likely, and in this case, surely the most likely Occam's razor principle is that it was a coaching and planning issue rather than a massive decline of all the players simultaneously, right?
Yeah, we've had conversations about this throughout the season, and I think I always was a little bit more reluctant than most about like they changed how they set up preseason and they got it all completely wrong. I think probably you might be a little bit more right than I thought. And I think it's probably a culmination of lots of different factors at the same time: aging lads, injuries to the wrong players, and then incorrect planning, and a level of, I do believe that the psychology has had a huge role, and I wonder how much, there's another injury, just kind of amplifies that feeling a little bit further.
Yeah. Okay.
But I do hope that that they have learned some from their mistakes of planning. I do 100% believe that there were errors in how we scheduled the season from a physical perspective, for sure.
And on the restart, then,
given that it was hard because no one's ever done it before.
Yeah. Get on the restart then against Villa and Leicester, and then Brentford, 3 games in a week. I think we're going to know pretty damn quick whether any lessons have been learned through the camp in Dubai, aren't we? And we're going to be able to pretty much see straight away what level the players are at, right? Physically.
Absolutely. And if anybody's been watching, I know you've not been watching games, but you watch me spout about numbers. The physical outputs in these World Cup games, they've been huge. Like there've been loads of games that are well over 118, 120k. And we're having 12 and 13k distances from players all over the place. And Liverpool's players in particular have put in massive shifts for their country that they hadn't done for Liverpool. Like Virgil had 2 games, his 2 highest distance games and highest number of sprints than he's made in any game for 3 years.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's something to do with the weather or the air conditioning or I don't know. But
you said motivation, could be
motivation. Yeah, so they do have the physical capacity. Henderson had massive numbers in his 2 games.
The Uruguayan dude who plays for Spurs, I saw he put some massive numbers, over 13k. Bentancur.
Yeah, Bentancur, yeah. There've been some really, really big ones all around, like Brozovic, 16.5 in extra time.
Oh, yeah. Rhodesy, you were going to come in?
The American lads were 14K in against England.
Tyler Adams and Musa.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Musa, I spoke about in the group that Jude Bellingham got 1,618 meters of high speed distance, which is anything over 20k per hour. And that's like, it's not elite. You just don't see it. It's absurd. It's happened 4 times in the last 2 years and never from a midfielder. And Musa is an absolute monster, and he hits 16k, 1.6k, but
of high speed,
just not quite as much as Jude.
Yeah.
We're seeing massive numbers. So I feel like our lads are going to come back in really good shape.
Good. Rhodesy, we're going to come in then.
Si's just answered it about the Jude.
Excellent. Yes, excellent. Right, Rhodesy, stay on the line because we've got one from Shamik. Now, I know we touched on this last week, but let's build on it a little bit. So could you do a profile on Trent, the last 3 to 4 seasons versus this season? Are the questions about his defensive weakness justified? How is his progressive passing? The eye test suggests that he's cut down on the crossfield ball switches that he used to do 2-3 times a game. Is this a stylistic change by the team, or simply that he's not being as progressive? Now, I know we touched on Trent on the season review pod last week. Rosie, anything you want to add to that, particularly on the defensive side for Trent?
Well,
what did you find?
There's not much in his defensive numbers. The tackling range is at 1.9 this season. His range in his career has been 1.4 up to 2.2. So there's not much in terms of how often he's tackling. He's actually won more tackles this season, 1.4, than his normal average of 0.8. So he's definitely doing more defending. And yeah, I think one of the questions about him this season has been getting dribbled past. He's making a lot more tackles against players who are dribbling at him, so teams are testing him more. He's made 2.5 this season, but he's also won 60% of them, which is as good as his previous best of 62%. So that's a weird one, but it's definitely...
So his 1v1 win rate is 62?
Yeah.
That's pretty good, actually, that, 162. Yeah.
I
mean, the best players in the league are about 68, 69, 70, aren't they?
There you go. Exactly that. But teams are trying to dribble past him more, so that's once every game, and that's pretty much within his range across his career. There's nothing in that. He hasn't made an up-to-defined error on the ball, leading to a shot or goal this season or last season. His tackles and interceptions combined is 2.88, again within his range. And his aerial duel rate this season has gone up to 60%. From his career average of 32. So in his career, he's been really poor in the air. But this season has been his best. He's second in our defence, or third if we can include Matip, but he's not got many minutes behind Virgil. He's ahead of Gomez, which is a shock. And shouldn't be the case. Your fullback should not be more aerial.
I guess the problem we've got, Rhodesy, is that we've only got the limit of these, because these are accounting stats. It's only the events data. Yeah. We haven't got anything about positioning, have we? We haven't, because it doesn't exist anywhere in any publicly available data, that's for sure.
That caveat also needs to be considered when I do the Fabinho one later, because defensive stats are tough. There's not much in those, improved aerial rates. In terms of progression, his ball progression this season is the highest it's ever been at 510 yards per 90. And interestingly, Trent's ball progression distance has gone up every single season since he started. It's just been one way. But in terms of his creativity, his expected assists are down half of last season, 0.2 to 0.4. But he is third in terms of big chance creation, which last week. He's crossing exactly the same.
Do we have anything on switches?
Yes, switches are down. They're only half of what he was doing in 1920. So the 1.45 as opposed to 3 is what they were doing in the league. Oh,
pretty good. Shamik's eye test there, fairly good then. If you were saying about 3 times a game, he was doing switch, yeah?
And he's only switching 60% of what he was doing last season. So
yeah,
it's about 1 every other game fewer. He's crossing.
Can I just bring in Rhodesy? Can I just bring in Bart's there, because this is something we touched on the individual pods as well. Do you think that the reduced switches is a stylistic change by the team then? Do you think it's tactical in nature?
I think so. I think some of this comes into his role as well, his role change. He's playing slightly more inside. and also finds himself higher up, doesn't he, into the sort of the, as we've certainly early on in the season, was in that 10 pocket, wasn't he? Sort of.
Yeah, you can't really switch from that anyway.
You can't really switch from that. Well, it's not. I don't think it's classified as a switch, is it? Even if it's just a long pass. But I mean, this kind of nicely leads into the question you've got for one of me later on, if you want to do that. But I think a lot of it is down to the position.
Yeah, let's do that now, actually. There's another one of Trent from Old and Cole. Why did Trent's through ball numbers shoot up last season and in brackets and stay high this season? ?
So similar to Rhodesy, I looked at it. I've just looked at his passing stats. So I mean, last season he had a 200% increase in his through ball rate. It's just looking at Premier League. That's actually gone down by 17% this season compared to last, but still remains relatively high, should we say, compared with previous seasons. I think it's 1.55 per 90 this season versus 2.18 in the league, but per 90 last season. So, but interestingly, his other metrics are all. If you look at when he broke into the side in 2017, 2018, he's just rolling up me legend here on the graph. His extended passes, his crosses, and his switches all continually rose all the way through till 2020. Which is when they dropped off a bit and his through balls and his switches went up a bit. And then that continued in 2022 and obviously 2021 and 2022. So those two last seasons are definitely, I think, towards the role change because you can't switch the play in there. And the ball you would more likely to play, I would say, from that line is the through ball.
Now, just one thing on through balls, right, chaps? And Rhodesy might remember this one. I'm sure there was something about Opta changing the measuring stick on
this is
through
true.
ball. Do we know when that was? Can we remember when that was? Because I'm sure that was the case, but I don't know how many years ago.
Might have been.
Actually, can you recall it?
To be fair, with a 200% increase in through balls, I would suggest it was the beginning of last season.
I guess the thing would be to check then, did other similar creative players also see a massive rise? Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at his per 90s, I mean, they're not, do you know what I mean? It's not it's a sort of, it's a little bit high. I would say that would be the break marker when that definition changed, should we say. It's because that's a massive increase.
Yeah, we can't rule out. I think what we're going to say to Richard, we can't rule out a potential change in the measuring stick there whenever there is such a drastic change. But you're definitely thinking there was role-based changes there as well.
Yeah, there's a role-based
becoming more interior. Yeah,
more inside, less switches, more through balls is definitely a pattern over the past four seasons for me for Trent. I'll post the chart in the chat as usual afterwards.
Oh, all right, you put it in the pressure chat, yeah, because you got a nice fist for that. All right. Okay. Rhodesy, did you have anything else to cover on Trent?
No, I would say I haven't got the figures, but I would say when I've collected the pressing this season, it's the worst I've seen him in terms of his pressing. There's been a lot more fails, a lot more goals and shots conceded from that side of the pitch. I think there's something in the pressing fails that he's had, and that tells us a lot about maybe why perceptions have changed. Because I always thought it was a bit of a myth that everyone focused on his bad defending, but he's certainly done some bad defending this season.
Yeah, this is true. And I think I completely forgot to check the pressing, but yeah, I think his efficiency will be the lowest of his career this year. That would be my guess.
Well, we said last pod that was one of the key things to improve in our post-World Cup performance was his form, wasn't it? So
yeah, absolutely.
That's what we just said.
Just for reference on the through ball thing, the De Bruyne, Mahrez, and Gundogan, I just looked at cities, all actually went down over the last 2 years.
Okay.
So I think it's real.
Okay, so it's tactical role change. Yeah.
You come inside, you're going to switch less. You're going to play more balls through the middle. I think that was the point, probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he's got the talent to do both kind of passes because he's so fucking good. Yeah. Right, coming back to you, Si. Question from Rick J on Discord. This is something you've mentioned about, but not for a long time. So this is going to chance you to rehash something. Is there a correlation between our results and performances on smaller pitches versus larger pitches? It feels like we perform better on smaller pitches as it's easy to cover the ground quicker and compress the space.
It used to be a factor for sure until. So this is a long-term listener. Until we won the league, the season we won the league, it normalised. So we were just brilliant against everybody, and it had no relevance at all in terms of points. But it still made a slight difference from pressing. But our pressing numbers were higher on smaller pitches. But maybe that's to do with home and away, because Liverpool Anfield is relatively small compared. It's below league standard size pitch. So there is always that caveat that Anfield is 6'8", and the league is 7'1", 40. So yeah,
that's square meters, by the way. Yeah,
square meters. But since the middle of 1920 season, it's really not made any difference at all. Points against, we actually have the number of small pitches has gone down season on season as well. As teams have gone down with smaller pitches, teams coming up have got bigger pitches, and so it's fairly standard across the board. And there's no, I don't see any correlation these days between points and pitches, sadly, because I really wish we did. Then I could figure how we can. We need to
start winning more points before we can analyse this season.
Yeah, exactly. We're just shit, and we're equally shit on big pitches and small ones.
Yeah,
you're one of the only persons I've ever seen do this kind of. Who's got these kind of data?
Yeah,
there's not many people.
No one else cared. That's why, and not because it's a physical thing. No one cared to look.
It's one of the things. The only things that I regret about our pressing stuff that we do is that we don't factor in the pitch size on the coordinates when we do it, because it was hard enough to try and get the pressing database set up to report on, and we had to do, because we play half our matches there, we've gone with Anfield pitch coordinates and pitch size, but for our pressing collection. But if you play on a pitch which is 10% bigger, those, when you do heat maps and you record the locations of presses, it will look different on a bigger pitch.
Yeah.
But yes,
you can adjust that, Darth. I mean, it's one of those.
Yeah, we can make some approximations.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you could do it, but it works.
Yeah.
I've run correlations between numbers in the past, but we've never been able to alter the actual dimensions of the pressing, so it's accurate. You're going to lose in some cases. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure which team, but there's one team that has 6,400 square meters, and there is others in the league with.
Is it Fulham?
6,328. It might be Fulham. I'm thinking it's a Yorkshire team. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Fulham's got a small pitch.
Yeah. Ellen Road's not small.
So there's like a 1,000 square meters difference. So that's going to make a difference. There's a difference to the width of the pitch and where the plots align.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We just from reference to nothing to do with this. Just academy pitches. We play 7'1", same as Wembley, and we've played on some pitches with 5'8", 2'5".
Yeah. Wow. 5'8".
Yeah.
Wow. That's 1,000 square meters less smaller than Anfield.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Jesus. Right. Okay. I've got a question for me, and I'm also going to bring Barton on this one. It's from CStat on the Discord. Are there any advancements to quantifying off-ball offensive actions that may not result in direct scoring output, but could be seen as a successful tactic? Successful runs where you are open, but the ball doesn't get delivered, using movement to eliminate a potential defender, third man runs, availability for a successful pass. Is it possible to analyze that statistically? Maybe you can describe how you observe these actions when watching the match if it isn't quantifiable, right? So I guess the good news, Bart, is there's good news and bad news. It is quantifiable, but not in any of the data that's available in public.
I was going to say, you can't even scrape some of the data that you'd need for that.
No.
So the data that you can get, there's the data that's on RefBreak for that everybody can get, and then there's data you can get through other means that is your coordinates for an event. But in terms of the player positioning, you need to be inside the tracking.
Yeah.
And I think, Simon might know this as well, but I think that the data is that good now. I'll be surprised if I would be very shocked if there isn't a way you can look at the running movement on that.
I mean, were you on the preseason pod we did with what's new in analytics? We did with Richard Cole, because we definitely
we spoke about that.
It's the Optivision model, the Optivision stuff. Because what Optivision have got, and it's probably a good time to do a recap on this, because I think they pretty much answer everything that CStat was asking. But the problem is the Optivision stuff isn't available publicly anyway. It's proprietary. You have to pay for it if you want to use it. So Optivision is now combination Stats Perform, who used to be Prozone.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give us a quick reminder of how Prozone works, Butts?
I can't remember the number of cameras, but it was they're 16. All top down. How many? 15? 16? 16 cameras, top down, track the players around, track all the actions, record endless amounts of
25 frames per second.
frames per second. And
16 cameras is mad.
It's mad. It's just phenomenal amount of data you'd get for this, almost too much. And if anyone ever played
2 million,
soccer,
I think, is it? 2 million?
Yeah, 2 million, yeah. It was anyone who plays sensible soccer, you're going to get a view like that of a game. And it was pretty outrageous what you could do with it. But yes, so that kind of technology they've bought and incorporated into their other statistical models, so I would imagine.
So they became Stats Perform, also known as Stats, and then they bought Opta. And now what they've done is they've combined, they layer up there's a brilliant video on how they do it on the Stats Perform website. They layer up their tracking data with the Opta data, and they generate this model called Optivision. And the things which are available in Optivision are, right, first of all, expected pass completion. So they attribute a value to every pass attempted in the game based on the probability of the pass being completed, and the model takes into account the location of each player on the field. So the pressure being applied by the defensive team and several other related contextual factors. So there you go, straight away, your position of all players off the ball is going to be factored into that model of expected pass completion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you've got pass options and availability. This model is applied to identify the total viable pass options for a player on the ball, as well as establishing which teammates are available to them as a potential receiver. There has been one blog I could find on pass options and availability, and it was done by Duncan Alexander. And Duncan's got his very irreverent take on the. He doesn't try to nerd out, does he? He tries to make everything funny, doesn't he, Duncan?
Yeah.
And what he did was he did it, and it made it about all the players who just hog the ball and shoot instead of never passing.
Yeah.
Right, and he did it for 2 years ago, right? So the 2020. The COVID season, basically. Which player in the league do we think had who's the worst player for shooting instead of not passing when he had loads of options?
Harry Kane.
Nope, not Harry Kane.
Ronaldo.
No, I don't think he was in the team. I don't think he was in the league at that point.
Was he English?
No, he's not English.
Striker though, right?
Midfield. He takes a lot of long shots from midfield.
Ruben Neves?
Yeah, Ruben Neves! So apparently Ruben Neves' average shot had 3.7 players he could pass to instead of shooting for his one goal outside the box this season.
That is a really good start.
That is a good start.
So, Garth, this links into one of the other questions,
Go on.
The World Cup stuff.
Oh yeah, we'll come into that in a second. Yeah. That's worth it. That's worth a discussion on its own as well. That right. On the other ones on Optivision quickly. Expected threat. Obviously, Bart's produces his own version of expected threat. Maybe it doesn't use potentially all 22 players off the pitch, but it definitely is the same principle, isn't it? Progressing from one zone of the pitch to another zone.
Yeah, and that's looking at the chance you're going to create a chance from that.
Yeah.
So it's taking attacking motions, whereas that's like a step one from what you're saying. So you've got
the up to one will input the players' positions in as well as the
and then the threat lays on top of that by working out which one of those actually is the most chance to then lead to a goal scoring opportunity or a shot being produced.
Yeah.
You can a 9 square grid on each player's position, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And there's other things that Opta have been able to produce from all this Optavision data. One, again, the Duncan Alexander blog, it was players who are pressured when they don't have the ball. And when he was doing this article again for 1920, it was Sadio Mane was top and Bobby Firmino was third. So imagine being that good that you're pressured when you don't even have the ball. And there was another one.
The perfect alternative to that is Harry Maguire. Did you watch? You didn't see it, but basically France went, "Oh, it's Maguire," and they all just wandered off,
like Leeds did with Joe Gomez.
Yeah, what's he going to do?
Yeah. And the other one they did was runs into the box. You can use their data, their Optavision data, to generate how often a player makes a run into the box, irrespective of whether he receives a pass or gets a shot or anything. And in the season, they did this again, 1920. Bobby Firmino was top by miles and miles. He was about 40% more than the second place player in the list. Mo Salah was third. Sadio Mane was fourth.
Jeez, but that shows you the way we played, right? So the answer to the question is yes, it's possible, but it's behind a paywall.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't that also is the opposite of a widely held belief about Bobby?
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
He doesn't make the runs.
Or he doesn't get in the box.
Yeah. But in Benno we're doing here, it could just be to take runners away, and take markers away, generate space for others, all those things.
Yeah.
But so the other one, there is another method of this, right? And it's the one that gave us our competitive advantage, I think. We can talk about with Will Spearman coming in back in the day.
Pitch control. Pitch control.
Yeah.
Which is, I suppose, early forerunner for XT, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Which is effectively what we spoke about, is looking at where we are on the pitch and what's the most likely route to create the biggest. I don't think they would have used XG, but you know what I'm trying to say, that the opportunity to score.
Got a quote from Will Spearman here that he gave they did an interview with LFC, the official site, when they do those behind the team interviews. Yeah. And it says pitch control, basically it's just the regions of the pitch that one player or a team are in control of. But the model shows how you can close off space, how you can create space with runs, and it's the fundamental notion of how you control space and how space is valuable. And then we call it off-ball scoring opportunity.
Yeah. But the key thing for us was that Will Spearman and Ian Graham, would model the opposition.
Yeah.
Which would then enable us to work out what we could do with our players more effectively, if that made sense.
Absolutely.
So they use seasons and seasons to then model what they would do and what the zones are. And that was a real competitive edge that came about it. But it's only one part of a holistic approach, obviously.
Yeah. And, the number one question I was told by somebody who did their coaching badges back in the day was, number question, always ask yourself when you're watching the game, where's the space? That's the number one question to ask if you want to analyse the game tactically. Where's the space? But I think the difference is what Will Spearman has done with Liverpool in 2016 onwards was, we were able to answer that question. We were able to quantify it as well. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just that they figured out how you can ask a different question. Where do you want the space to be?
Oh, yeah.
Then and
Nice.
that you can create patterns that in 3 moves time, you've created where the space where you want it to be.
That's the beauty of the model, wasn't it? You could basically input what you could do and how the opposition would react because you're modeling it all the time live.
Exactly.
I honestly, I'd love to be able to see that working like behind the scenes, but it would have been fascinating to watch. That's a real geeky, nerdy thing to say, but to see what would happen. Right, we're going to pass it here, and here, and to see put it in different positions and see what would happen. It'd be phenomenal. But yeah,
because once you've got that model made, you can test it with all kinds of scenarios.
Of course you can.
Yeah,
of course you can, and you can then play in. And this you could have. I don't know whether we did, but you can look at right. Well, if we play this player in here, is he more likely to put in this to create this? What's the best to take advantage of these situations? So you could have played that player. But anyway, that's soon to be part of our history, I think.
Yeah. Don't say that.
Sorry,
and there was a follow-up from C-Stat as well, and it was just an extension of that. I think the majority of action takes place off the ball, and I'm wondering, well, he's right, if 90% of a football match is played without the ball, if you're a player, I'm wondering if there are ways to measure it that I'm not aware of. NFL advanced stats have metrics and grades for players who never once touch a ball. NFL is unique and very matchup based, but it would be cool if there's something which would be similar in football. Yes, it would be very cool, C-Stat. It does exist. Unfortunately, we can't afford the license to look at it. So this is one. What you need to do, C-Stat, is lobby Eddie Gibbs at Eddie Gibbs on Twitter and tell him to stop being so cheap and buy us all an Optivision license.
Do we know how much it is?
I wouldn't.
Oh, come on.
It's going to be 5 figures, I reckon.
Yeah. We could look after which one, right? But
yeah, one between us. Yeah.
no one's asked it, but one question for you, I've got, is what do we make of the fact that FBref changed from StatsBomb data to Opta, and how does that impact it when you're collecting? It was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? Because we've lost all the press there on board, off ball.
The pressures, yeah.
No carries either.
Wait, pissed me off because I've got a template. They've already got 9 games in for this season, and season on season we're back to 17-18 that all correlates with one another. So you can look at patterns, you can look at trends, and then they suddenly take away categories, and that really pissed me off.
Yeah, same here. So I was saying it just pissed me off to recode stuff because I was like, what the hell? But I don't know. Apart from it's weird because we always talk about the differences in data and data sources. And I think using the same data source is better. But the pressures, I know we talk about it all the time, what it means, but I think it gave you another little tool. You could always look at what the Oppo were doing because we don't clear pressing for the opposition, whereas you always had that thing on FBref to look at that and the carries. So yeah, I don't know. It's
so I know it's been a pain in the arse, Rhodes, but I know why they did it. I know why FBref did it because they wanted coverage. They wanted range. They made a business decision: coverage of leagues versus losing a bit of depth in some of the leagues.
Makes sense to me, and I don't believe that it. I don't believe that it lowered their quality, their value at all in any way.
No.
It just annoyed me that there were like 5 categories that are no longer in my spreadsheet.
Because they get one thing they didn't get, I think, was MLS. Believe it or not, from StatsBomb, they get MLS now.
Really?
They get the Argentinian top division, is it Premier League? They get the Brazilian top, but they always had Libertadores and stuff. But they have Portugal now. Remember, we never used to get to Portugal. Every time we take a player from Portugal, we never get it for that. But advanced data for Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium.
What's the women's data like now?
Yeah, women's data, more women's data as well from that as well. So yeah, so I think that they tried to go for access, haven't they? Accessibility rather than depth.
Because their model is to sell to clubs. That's why.
FBref.
They have the comparable data they can sell to clubs and to agents.
No, FBref is like public service, isn't it? They want the opposite. They always want to engage with as many people around the world as possible.
No, they have an arm that does that too.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, interesting.
There are more ads on the FBref site now, by the way. There's them playable video things that pop up now and again on every page.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But
isn't that ESPN something or?
Whatever it is, but it's just there, isn't it? So
yeah.
whereas it wasn't before.
No, it's not.
Can I just finish the previous CStat question? That if on the World Cup right now there are stuff that answers what he's talking about. The movement to receive is an off-ball statistic that they're quantifying, and the type of movement, so running in front of a player, going in between players, out to in, into out, or in behind, like that stuff we've never had before. Offers made to receive a pass.
So let's do the FIFA question now then. Question was from Old King Cole on Discord. FIFA have begun creating their own statistics and definitions as part of a football language initiative. With the World Cup seeing one of the first rollouts of these metrics, what do you think of their definitions? And would you like to see these used by others? Any that are unhelpful and should be replaced? So, Si, you've been consuming this heavily, right? So what do you think of the FIFA?
I think they're stupid. I think the definitions are absolutely stupid.
Really?
I think as a good example, right, is to, apart from I have a 15-year-old son, which we could talk about his consumption of the World Cup and it would blow your mind. But from a language perspective, watching people coach kids and then watching professionals coach and then professionals coach my girls, and the language difference that is required in each context, in each circumstance is vastly different. And they've used pro-license language in these statistics, and it doesn't carry any meaning to general population.
So who are FIFA intending to be the target audience of their project? Pro-license people, community?
Probably to coaches, to be fair.
Yeah.
Or to the media who don't understand anything because they're just absolute Luddites. Like Jermaine Genius is not going to use this shit. But I actually like the content. It's the labels that make no...
So you think the labels are slightly pretentious, should we say?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're much more easily understandable terms to describe the statistics that they're displaying.
Okay. In terms of the content then, in terms of the data which is in there, I'm guessing, Si, that you really, really like the physical numbers.
I love having access to that. I don't think it means anything to the average pundit.
Total distance, high speed, sprints, but
yeah,
also more than that as well.
I've done interviews with ESPN, with CNN, and with The Guardian in the last week on headlines about Messi and his walking. Because they just care about, like, they don't care about anything really. They just see a thing that looks like a big thing that fits a story they already had in their brain. They don't understand what any of this stuff means or the value of any particular component of it. Yeah. I love that it's available. I've created a couple of models because it's quite a lot of data, position specific norms, basically. That so I add our high quality position players, obviously. So I've got nice little radars of what an attacking fullback should look like from a physical perspective.
Nice.
So yeah, that was very handy to have.
Interesting. Rhodesy, have you been engaging much with the FIFA data?
I haven't. I've seen bits of it, and I think that I like the match. Their post-match reports are better than Y-Scouts.
Excellent.
I like how the information is presented, but I agree with Si on the terminology. It's a lot of nonsense.
Being pretentious.
Mm.
But they have got one thing they do have is pressures, and they also have lots of different types of pressures. They've got pressures divided in, I think, into about 4 ones, and there's ones like there's one where they almost like, okay, they motioned to press, and there's another one where they followed through on that and they directly gone to press the opponent. So this is a level of richness we haven't seen before. Obviously, there's no kind of visuals. I don't think I've seen from this, Rhodesy, just the raw data, yeah, in tabular format.
Yes, yeah. Although they do have some visual graphs in the post-match report. Yeah.
Oh, they've got no. They have got really granular videos if you want to look at them on explain everything.
Yeah,
with really good examples. So I can't argue with the quality of the thing they're offering. It's just how they've described it is silly.
Okay, and in answer to the question from Olkin Cole, this is FIFA's football language and their data, and what's I mean. Well, obviously we've already got Opta, the oldest. Their first definitions of what is a shot, what is a tackle, what is an interception, probably dates back to about 2008, and we've been using it on Anfield Index and EPL Index as it was back then. Since probably about a year after that, Rhodesy, I would have thought, when we first got access to that kind of stuff, trying to understand what Opta said is all their definitions, yeah?
Yeah, we all have to learn them.
Go through a journey. And that's what we've grown up with, really, isn't it? That's the oldest one. And then StatsBomb came along and with their definitions about 2017. And they had some variations there. Obviously, it was very confusing when, you get... StatsBomb's aerial duels are different Optas. I mean, how can you really be different counting an aerial duel? But yeah.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, mag boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
I guess they're the things they're the pitfalls, aren't they, Rhodesy? When two providers claim to be talking about the same thing and have a different definition both and have different counts of what they are. Yeah. That's what you got to be.
Very confusing.
Mm.
Especially when it's the same. They use the same name, so it's just a simpler aerial duel. They've got different amounts of aerial duels. It's just like, oh,
yeah. And Bart, just to bring you on this one, I mean, when you've got like different sets of KPIs and people purporting to have similar data sets and not, I mean, how do you reach a point of standardization, or is it just like VHS versus Betamax and one of them will die off, or Blu-ray versus HD DVD, and then one will go?
Yeah, this is kind of the archetypal argument of practice versus theory. You teach your theory saying you ideally want to have an agreed set of KPIs language so everyone understands you're on the same page. But in reality, in practice, there is the VHS, Betamax, Laserdisc, DVD, all of that happening at the same time. So you just got to kind of work through it. I think, so I haven't engaged at all with any of the stuff that's been going on recently, but the Si's point there about language is critical. It's what your audience is for. And that's another thing you teach is who are you analysing for? And I think as we just chatted about the change with SBRef and those, they all have slightly different markets. So yeah. I think within that, I do agree there should be, it would be lovely if there was a whole else set of definitions. You know what I mean? So it was like an aerial duel is this, a shot is this, XT, whatever you want to call it, is this. Yeah. How you describe that, you can then dress up to meet your audience, because there are people like Jermaine Genius who needs to have it in, pictures and number blocks. But, there are other people like coaches who want to know it's this. So, but I think in an ideal world, to answer your question, yes, there would be an agreed set of KPIs with an agreed set of definitions, but in reality, it just doesn't work like that. As you said, the time scan, it often's run by companies coming in, isn't it? Let's be frank.
Yeah.
Opta got in there first, said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to call it this. Someone else came in and said, well, hang on a minute. We found a slightly cheaper way. We're going to call it this. So it changes on. But until you get a governing body saying, no, actually, we're all going to do this, you don't know. Things ain't going to change, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that'd be my way. I'd want my final word on this one would be that ultimately FIFA are the world governing body. American sports make all their data for their leagues free to air, free free for the public, or via the MLB.com and NFL.com and all, etc. So it's all out there. And if FIFA really wanted to, they could say, well, we're rolling this out across every league in the world, every competition, and then here everybody, here's a pot of money to implement. Oh, you need to collect, in your leagues and stuff like that. And this is the new standards. And if they wanted to, and there's not much really that Opta and StatsBomb could do about it, I don't think.
No, you could pretty much wipe them out overnight.
Yeah. Because FIFA got so much fucking money, as we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd just be the buy-in, wouldn't it? What's in it for the leagues to use it, isn't it? Because they are all in power. They're their own companies now, aren't they? Premier League is a company in its own right. So, but no, I think you're right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
A couple of things on that. Can I quickly the terminology and the type of data that they use is you're talking about standardization, which if it say FIFA were just to take over and just put out their own data like MLB does, whatever, like I'm all on board with that. But just in this example at this World Cup is the perfect example of the flaw in their system, is that they run per 90s for players and for teams, and they couldn't be further from accurate right now because with 113-minute games against some games that had 92 minutes, that's 12% difference that you're going to sway a player's passing rate or the shots per or XG per or through balls per 90. Like, just because they aren't actually counting the minutes that they're playing, that's a big significant change.
Right. You're doing a great job of segueing here, so I love this. No, brilliant. Because, absolute perfect segue into the question for Bart's from Brad. I wonder how big an impact it would be if we stopped or lessened our use of per 90 stats and compared players using ball in play time only. For example, if one attacker plays in a team where the ball is in play 65% of the time and player B's team is 52%, they may have comparable numbers, but per 90, but intuitively, you would assume that player B was better for everything when everything is adjusted to being equal. And I think it's a really interesting argument. Is this the next progression to normalise performance data? Is it to go with? Can I just say before we actually just congratulate Sai on being one of the most brilliant innovations I've seen in the last 7 years, which was the per 100 touches. Sai,
yeah.
Rather than per 90 minutes, this definition per 100 touches, absolutely sensational.
Just removes a team's possession from the argument, and it gives them a perfect.
Based on opportunity. Yeah.
Particularly around like creative stuff.
Yeah,
like, when you're talking creative players, that's a huge normalizer.
But do you think that ball in play time is the next way to normalise performance data for players?
So I think I showed you earlier. I had to go at doing this.
Did you?
I did. Yes. So I've come up with two other. I'm not saying these are really good. I've just proposed. One of them I think's all right, and one of them I'm like, well, what the hell have I done there for? But anyway, so I looked at. Si's going to kill me, but I haven't got the exact minutes for players, right? So I looked at their average minutes played in the league, okay, and then I took into account the average possession a team has, and you can adjust that to a stat. Okay. And I looked at how that affected their stats on 4 key. I've got XT, I've got XG, I've got XA, and then progressive passes. Okay. So I'll put the viz in there as always. I've got the raw on there. I've got the traditional per 90, should we say. And then I've got, so I've called it possession adjusted, or, for the player. And I've also tried to have a go at doing it for the time the player has. So rather than per 90 for the time the player has. And that doesn't, I need to do something else with the calculation to come out right. But my takeaway from looking at the viz, okay, is your best performers still hit the top of the graphs. All right. So I've got this with 10 players. I've got two fullbacks. I've got 3 forwards and 3 midfielders, something like that. And they still the bit in the middle, should we say, the not your top performers, that's where it makes a bit of a difference. And if you do possession adjusted, people like Roberto Firmino, Henderson, Harvey, their levels come up closer to your top performers. Should we tell you what, XT, your top performer on the side is Trent and Robbo. Yeah. If you look at it raw wise, there are players that are just way off. If you look at it per 90, everyone else drops off to 0.1, 0.2 below the top 2 performers. But when you adjust it for, as I said, per their time and per the team's possession, they all shrink into about a 0.25 difference, which just I think it normalizes. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, I do think there is more in this. What I've got isn't perfect, but I do think it gives you a better sense about what the player is doing in the time they are on the pitch, and equally of the possession the team has in that game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, brilliant.
So yeah, I'll put that viz in there, but yeah, I think it helps you identify not your top, because they're always going to be the top players, but the wheat, if you like, some of the wheat from the chaff.
Brilliant. Rhodesy, Wisecout had ball in playtime, famously, don't we? Because I remember I did it early in the season and got loads of Newcastle fans spam, gave me loads of abuse for a week. Do they actually do a league table or anything like that of ball in playtime for the teams? Or is it only in the individual match reports?
I can only find it in individual match reports, unless Phil knows different.
No, you can only get an individual match. You can download a whole season for a team.
Yeah.
But then you'd have to compile it yourself, picking out that stat for every single team.
Well, one thing I do know as well is that the last 3 seasons, PremierLeague.com has published a table of ball in play time for what you could do. You could use that as an assumption based model there. So you could say like City is 58 minutes, Liverpool's 57 minutes, Newcastle's 47 minutes, and you could do an approximation based on that. I don't think you'd be a million miles off, would you, with individuals within that team?
Minutes. And Stokes is 25 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Okay. Rhodesy, specifically for you, from Mega Bomberman, nice easy one. A deep dive into Fabinho pre and post summer would be brilliant.
Yeah. Nice.
I bet it would. I mean, right. With the caveat, defensive stats are difficult. Anything that you want to really call out on this?
Well, it's the beauty of the heat map, because his heat map tells quite a lot. Not something I've really noticed, but if you look at his heat map this season compared to last season and his career,
touch heat map.
It's in the. I'll post it. It's in the from
Fantasy Football Scout.
Yeah, it's more focused on the right in the centre rather than full pitch coverage, which is his overall heat map last season and previously. Is like a full pitch of heat. We all know the Fabinho performances where his coverage is huge, whereas this season he's focusing on the right. So that was interesting. His one defensive flaw this season I found is his aerial duel rates dropped to 50%. He's
really?
Obviously incredibly tall, and that's from 65. He's also attempting fewer, which is 1.6 to 2.3, so that's quite big as well. So he needs to be up in his aerial duel game. He used to be crucial for us, the 2 centre-backs and Fabinho having above 65%.
Yeah.
That was something massive. He's attempting fewer tackles, but it's only just. And his winning rate this season of tackles is actually higher, and as high as it's been 66 to 50% last season. He's making fewer interceptions, fewer recoveries, but more clearances. He hasn't made any on the ball errors. And actually, it's his second best season for being dribbled past. So he gets dribbled past 1.1 a game compared to a high of 1.8 in his second season.
It's worthwhile pointing out that defensive midfielders are the most dribble past players in all of Europe, in all European competitions. They're always the highest.
Yeah,
it's the nature of the beast.
His actual tackle success rate is poor this season. For the fewer tackles that he is making, it's 34% compared to an average of 54 in his best season. But his possession's normal; it's within his range, and he's also shooting a lot less, only 0.3 a game compared to 0.8 last season. And we all know how good he can strike a ball. So. Yeah, I think again with Fabinho, I've done the pressing this season, and it's by far the worst season I've seen for his.
Yeah,
pressing.
Definitely on the pressing, definitely.
Down. I can remember, of course, a 2-game span. I think he conceded 3 shots from failed presses. So it's not.
I remember one of the games you said it was. He'd done a Milner-esque press in one of the games. He was that bad. He hadn't even reached the player. He was that slow.
Yeah.
He motioned, and then the player was already past him before he even reached him. So yeah,
this is a perfect. I think it's perfect. Him in particular, where you want the physical data. You want to see how much he's running. He's not covering as much of the ground, and we've seen him not get to balls. But this again, there's not that much in his. It's just his success rates of his aerial duels. And his on-ball duels are all down.
Definitely post those heat maps in the Discord afterwards, Rose. That'd be brilliant. Yeah.
Can I add that his possession control is down from 6.9 to 3.17?
Now that's the ratio between possession wins and possession losses.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems like a big deal. Yeah. Question for you, which is basically sports science monitoring, right? So. From Sean Gadu on Discord, when it comes to physical drop-offs, what signs would the sports science be looking at to predict players? And then specifically, could the sports science teams have predicted Fabinho looking so off, for example? So what's the kind of things that you monitor in sports science, looking for things going, changing in the player physiologically and stuff?
Yeah, so every day there'll be a readiness monitoring. So each club has their own system, the things that they're tracking, but everybody will be monitoring the sleep quality, sleep time. Everybody will be monitoring a thing called RPE, RPE.
Rate of perceived exertion.
Yeah, rate of perceived exertion. I was thinking that doesn't sound right. Rate of perceived exertion. So they give a rating out of 1 out of 10 out of every training session at the end of every training session, and that correlates with their heart rate data and their predictive. So internal and external load. Internal load is their heart rate. External load is how much running they did. Which is quantified by GPS. So they look at all of those factors, so internal, external, and how they perceived, rate of perceived exertion. So you see how that correlates. How hard does it feel related to how hard it was internally, externally? They will do a couple of probably jump tests in the morning. So maybe a counter movement jump, which is basically you stand still, bend your knees, and jump as high as you can, or a drop jump, which will be off a set box height. So maybe 24 inches, you'll drop off a box and jump in the air as quickly as you can off the floor, and there'll be standardized numbers for each player. So whatever is normal, and they'll be looking for deviations of 5% or more of those, and you start to get flagged once you have three of those metrics change by 5% or more. And so, yeah, you're looking for those things. That's the predictor of injury, but also stress or fatigue or any of those things. There'll be a couple more. They'll maybe have a groin bar test where they stick this thing in between your knees and you have to squeeze it really tight. That's a great predictor of neuromuscular fatigue, central nervous system fatigue, and heart rate variability is another one. How everyone's seen an ECG is basically the difference between the RSTQ curve. So the beginning of the blip and the mountain and the end of the blip before it goes flat again. That everybody has a unique signature, and that changes depending on your stress levels. So, and fatigue is a stress. So yeah, they look at all of those things, and then they see when you're not normal. And if they didn't predict you'd be not normal because you've got a specifically tough training period, so they're hoping for a positive adaptation, then it's they can predict that you're going to get injured, or your performance is going to go down because of it. Did that make sense? A lot of words.
Yeah, absolutely made sense. So basically, we track players so closely, so they will know. The club will know whether there's physical declines. Yeah, but they just won't say it publicly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Si. Quick one from me from Shamik. So on UP, you covered Darwin's goals to expected goals numbers reaching 100%. I remember you guys covering Mo's level of overperformance during his crazy season, and one greater than 120% would be considered elite finishing. How do forwards perform in this regard? So, really good question. Yeah. So what I did was I looked at pretty much the elite 20, what would regarded to be the 20 best finishers of the last 5 years, and just to get some benchmarks for this, and what is good and what is elite, right? So even there is only one player who has gone a full season, right, without underperforming their expected goals in a single season. Only one player, major forward. Sorry, yeah. Anybody want to have a guess who that is?
In the Premier League?
No, Europe, top 5 leagues.
Say it again, Dolph.
Only one player, right? 5 full seasons, right?
Yeah.
Only one player has had a positive, is overperformed his XG in every single season. Every other player has had at least one season where his actual has been less than his expected. Who did you say?
Vardy.
Nope.
Haaland.
It is Haaland. Even Messi,
been around for 5 seasons.
Even Messi, he had some low numbers. Even Messi has had a minus 4.9 in 4.9 under his XG. But anyway, point is there are some absolutely wild ranges on elite finishes. Right, Benzema, right, was plus 9.3 last season over expected, which is incredible. Really, really hot. Just by Mo Salah, it's got the second best season I could find in terms of outperforming expected goals. He was in 17-18, he was 11.3 above expected.
With no pens.
And no pens, yeah. And Karim Benzema was 7.5. Another season he's had in the last 5 years, he was 7.5 under his XG. Lewandowski had a season where he was 7.9 under his XG, and he's had another one where he was 8.7 over, which is just elite again. Messi's got the best season, 18-19, when we beat him 4-0 at Anfield. He was 17.4 goals above his XG. That's the biggest in crazy, right? Mo's had a couple slightly below zero, right? Anyway, so what happens is when you aggregate it all together, very, very, very good forwards have a ratio of 1.1 goals for every 1 XG. So right on this limit are Kylian Mbappe, Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane. They're all at that level, right? A very few players get close to 1.2. 1.2 goals for every XG. Harry Kane is at that level. Let me just find the file. Sorry. Harry Kane's there. Sergio Aguero, Christopher Nkunku, and Ciro Immobile, the Lazio striker. Believe it or not, he's consistently good. in XG. And there are 3 players who, over a long period of goal, at least 60 non-penalty XG, are higher than 1.3. Anybody want to guess who the top 3 are?
Diego Costa.
No.
Have you already said Messi? I can't remember. Yeah,
Messi's one of them. Messi's at 1.3. Messi has got 152 goals from 117 expected in the sample.
Yeah.
No, Lewandowski is lower than Sadio. He's just over 1. Yeah, he's 1.04.
I mean, is it too early for Haaland to be in there?
Yeah, Haaland is 1.3. Haaland is second. Haaland has got 94 goals from 69 expected. So he's 1.36. The player who's top is 1.42, right? He's got 96 goals from 68 expected.
Wow.
Do we want to guess who that is?
You got a league?
Son
Heung-min. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yes,
Right. Now, he is the only player as well. He is 0 for this season. He's bang on his XG so far this season, so he's not exceeding it. So technically, that's why Haaland was the answer to the previous question. But yeah,
gotcha.
Son Heung-min and Haaland are the top 2. Ronaldo, just for lols, is the only player of the elite forwards who's under his XG. He's at 125 from 125.9. So there you go. What you beat? Oh, and the question was about Nunes originally. Nunes is currently too few in his career to make any firm conclusions, but overall he is 46 goals from 40 expected. Which is 1.15, which is a really good start. But he's bang on it for Liverpool. He's minus 0.2. He's fraction under. But obviously he had that massive overperformance last season for Benfica when he was 9.5 over as is expected. So, but even if he comes back a bit to be the same level as Mo and Sadio, you're still looking at 1.1 is the level you want to be looking at.
Yeah. Good question.
Excellent. Right, and a couple of fun ones to finish off for the 3 of us, right? From Frank Football. Midfield profile that it would improve the squad, cruncher, buzzer and spreader, to quote the manageress. Right, so question is, for who is the archetypal cruncher, buzzer and spreader that we would benchmark against? Come on.
Interesting. I reckon spreader is got to be Cruz or Thiago.
Or Xabi Alonso?
Oh, I suppose, but I don't know what the whole
we got the
data was like when Xabi was playing still.
Yeah. So spreader would, Tony Cruz or
it'd be Cruz or Thiago, I'd say.
Yeah.
Cruncher.
Cruncher would be
Rino Gattuso.
Historically, are we talking, or are we actually talking running statistics? Because we'd have to whether we could reasonably get data for. I currently in the world right now, I'd go Rodri.
Would you?
Okay. Isn't he a centre back?
Isn't he a centre back?
Who else would be in there?
Declan Rice, Tchouaméni.
Or Tchouaméni.
Tchouaméni, I would have said.
Yeah.
They play as a 6, but are they crunchers?
That's what I'm asking.
Tchouaméni was really physical, yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say Rodri plays as a
Declan Rice is
cruncher.
a buzzer.
Do you?
No, he's not fast enough to be a buzzer.
He's not fast.
Jude Bellingham's the buzzer.
He runs a lot. He gets up and down the pitch a lot. And
Jude Bellingham's the buzzer. So's Hendo. Well, Hendo was the buzzer, but Jude Bellingham
is,
yeah. Who's the archetypal cruncher then? Anybody other shouts?
Historically,
it would be Steve McMahon.
Roy Keane.
Oh, I was going to say Mascherano, but there you go.
Patrick Vieira.
For a cruncher.
David Batty.
Shit. And the buzzer. Who are the best buzzers we've seen?
Here we go, right? Here we go. David Batty, Neil Webb, Brian Robson.
Brian Robson being the buzzer?
Yeah, they're shit versions of a cruncher, a spreader and a buzzer.
Brian Robson wasn't shit.
No. Well, he mostly was because he was injured, but...
And I think in terms of Frank's question, midfield profile that would improve the squad, I think obviously in modern parlance, the spreader is Enzo Fernandez. The cruncher
Is he?
yeah.
Is Enzo the passer?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
The cruncher is Moises Caicedo, and the buzzer is Jude Bellingham.
That's a fair.
Take that midfield.
You've got rotations there as well, because I think Enzo can drop in as a 6 as well.
Yeah, but definitely. Yeah. He is the passer, though, isn't he?
But he's the passer, yeah. It's like Thiago can play a 6 as well against the right opposition, but yeah.
Yeah. Right, and final one from NFI. If you could only track one metric from now, what would it be? Rosie, I know what yours is.
Big chances.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's understood. You can talk to fans about it who aren't interested in stats, and it's kind of something that it conjures up a picture in your mind of what a chance is, and it's a good stat. Whereas if you say XG, they're going to say what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah. Someday.
I agree, because it's the original proxy for an expected goals model.
That's
It's
exactly,
good enough.
yeah,
It's good enough.
It's good.
And I think if we can get our big chance conceded down to fewer than one, which we did in the title season, then we'll definitely finish top 4. If it stays at the current level of 2.75 a game at home and 3 every single match away from home, we haven't got a chance of. We probably won't even finish top 6 if it carries on like it has been.
Yeah. Now, Si, you are the man who collects everything. We've seen your sheets. From now on, you've the only room on your sheet to collect one metric. Which one is it?
For a player?
Oh, a player or team. Is it distance? Is it sprints?
No, because they're not. They're no. They aren't game changers.
Is it pitch control or possession control?
For Liverpool, it might be possession control, yeah.
Or progression. No, because possession control. No. What was the other one you did? There was the one that you did a metric of possession control. I'm sure you did progression versus.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Progressive meters per progression possession control. Yeah, I've got a graph with them.
There was a ratio of the two, and the other one XG build per 100 touches.
XG build per 100 touches and XG chain. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what stat I keep. I really don't know one stat I would keep at all. I'm going with possession control because it's the only one I have that nobody else does.
Yeah.
And I do think it tells a story.
That makes perfect sense as well.
It does, yeah. It does.
So, I mean, but is there one metric to rule them all?
It's Si's gone with it. I think that's a very good metric for me. I'm similar to Rhodes. He's nicked the one I would have gone for. I expected him to go for that, but mine is the shot quality reduction for the Oppo. So because I think that gives us an indication that we're reducing them to lower quality chances, and inversely us increasing the quality of our chances. So that would be the metric, because that would show our pattern of play is producing better quality chances. That's the way we look at it. And then our defensive pattern of play, we do it. Pardon?
X got difference.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to, in theory, if we were confident in it, we would say XT, expected threat. But we've got concerns about its veracity.
I want to see that for a bit longer. Yeah, I want to see it for a bit longer. For right here, right now, this question, what is it in terms of what we would track to improve Liverpool? I think the 3 we've discussed are probably the ones.
I mean, if we were Will Spearman and we had off-ball possession, value,
we wouldn't be here, Rhodes.
Yeah,
we wouldn't be
here. Yeah. Mine would be ultimately, it's about what happens in both boxes. And I would be, I'd bring back savability, say.
Yeah.
I'd bring back savability, and you'd look at them, and you'd look at everything from the perspective of XG2 or post shot XG. Yeah,
I think my most valuable stat for Liverpool this season, the change in, would be the difference between XG and XG2. The more we're adding to XG, the better. The more we're diminishing the opposition, the better.
Yeah. They're all linked.
I still think the player which is most important to the match result is the goalkeeper. So if I could only have one, it would be post-shot XG. And then even more from that into what we used to do with savability.
What was that website called that was around for a couple of
Oh, it was, I think that's probably why they got... It was Sportify, not Spotify, Sportify.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Oh.
Yeah.
Spotify.io.
Yeah, and then that's probably why they got shut down, because they were a bit too close to Spotify. Right, that is it. We had a couple we didn't get to, but apologies if you were... we didn't get to your question, but I think I thought it was really good. Any other business from anybody?
No, just looking forward to getting the proper football back, as I said.
Yeah, 10 days till Man City.
That's not the proper football. Fuck that.
Even Sai is going to be. Tell you what, it's going to be. We're so desperate for Liverpool matches. Even Sai is going to be watching the Carabao.
I watch the Carabao like I watch England, hoping desperately none of our players get injured.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, we will be back for the Villa game. Some point we're going to work out the Christmas schedule, but we will be back about the 27th. Until then, and this is the last time we'll speak to you before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everybody. And we will speak to you soon. Up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.